Hello, it's Mio. It is Monday, January 31st, 2022. There's a reason why I look like the Unabomber, and it's because my hair is completely out of control. And I don't know, like it sufficiently makes me look as though I'm someone who's in the process of just, I don't know, going through some stuff. It's just a visual representation. I'm going through some stuff. So the last time I uploaded a video, you saw that I was in the hospital, and I was in the hospital for 1 week. I was in the ER department first for 36 hours, and then I was moved up to a ward at the hospital and was there for another few days, 5 days, but anyway, 7 days total. And yeah, like it was an experience, and it wasn't just the stuff that I was going through, because the stuff that I was going through was, has its challenges and everything, but hospitals aren't peaceful, convalescing places. Hospitals are people suffering and people going through stuff and people who have all kinds of stuff going on. And I realized after getting home or getting out of the hospital that I had like really pent up a lot of stuff just getting through it. And I almost, again, I've told a couple of people, I almost understand why so many people that I encountered this past week was like, oh, you're so lovely and so great, and it was so great to take care of you this week and to get to know you and all this kind of stuff. And it's likely because I just pretty much kept to myself and didn't really, ask for anything extra, or there wasn't a whole lot that was going on for me. And not to say that the folks who were struggling were doing those things on purpose or anything like that. And I'm sure that if I was in a similar situation as they were, maybe, my caregivers would have thought of me differently. But it just turned out that I know I'm pretty self-sufficient and needed help when I needed help, but probably minimally in relation to maybe some other folks that were there. So to recount, 3 weeks ago I started sleeping a lot. So this is probably now going back for 4 weeks, because the week that I was in the hospital seems like a time warp. I have no idea where that week went. It is a really very surreal situation to be in a hospital for a week. So 4 weeks, going back 4 weeks, I started feeling quite tired. I was more fatigued than usual, and I was sleeping a lot, and more than usual, enough for me to make note of it. The week following that, there were a few times I had low-grade fevers in the evenings, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of that following week. When I was tired, I started having like these low-grade fevers around like 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. And then Thursday was not as high of a fever, so I thought, oh, okay, maybe I've rounded the corner on this thing. Wasn't sure what it was. Didn't seem like COVID because there wasn't any other symptoms apart from like these low-grade fevers. I had a hospital appointment the following Wednesday. In order for me to be cleared to go into the hospital, I had to be completely asymptomatic. And unfortunately, the Monday had this really great live stream on Monday. It was so much fun. And after that live stream, went to sleep and had a fever spike. So I called the hospital the next day, and they said, well, you need to get a COVID test. Well, the only way to get a COVID test in Ontario is to go to the pharmacy or any of those places, if you can get an appointment, is to be asymptomatic. I was symptomatic, so I was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, where I was needing a COVID test, but I was symptomatic, technically. So the people at the hospital saying, well, the fevers, and you also need to get this COVID test to be able to access Princess Margaret Hospital anyway, so you might as well go to Emerge. So Tuesday, I go to emergency, and they do a scan. They see there's some stuff in the lungs that look a little bit viral or bacterial. They're not quite sure. They're not sure if it's pneumonia, if it's viral. And also there were some blood work numbers that were off. My liver function numbers were off. My bilirubin number was beginning to climb. And the people in emergency aren't necessarily folks who are looking at sort of like long-term stuff. They're looking at what brought you to the hospital today. So they chose to focus on the lung thing. So I got antibiotics for the lungs, COVID test, swab, which came out, so the rapid antigen came out negative. They swabbed for the PCR that was going to take at least 12 hours, sent home with antibiotics and a negative COVID test, at least antigen, and told to follow up with my oncologist about this other stuff with my liver value numbers. So my oncology team, whom I say to this day is all the time amazing, and I'm grateful and thankful for them because they've been awesome. The other thing I wanted to, the thing that I wanted to mention was that as soon as I saw, sorry to go back and forth or not be completely clear, but the one thing that's really cool about the hospitals now, maybe it's everywhere, I know certainly this is true for where I am, is that I could access my blood work as soon as they are ready. So when I was in the hospital and I in the ER department, and I got my blood work, I was able to look at my results before the doctor came in and talked to me. So that's when I said around the elevated liver numbers and the bilirubin number, I said, do you think it's the stent that they installed? I have had it installed for the last year. He kind of messed me up a little bit. He said, well, it's likely more that it's growth of your cancer. And I was just like, ugh, I'm not an oncologist. Didn't need to say that. That kind of sucked. But I just kind of put that aside. And like I mentioned, how that ER situation ended was they took a bunch of blood tests, including some cultures, and took a chest x-ray, saw that I had this stuff in the chest, got some antibiotics, and they said that if my PCR came back positive, then stop taking the antibiotics because I have COVID, and antibiotics aren't going to do anything. Otherwise, keep taking the antibiotics and blah, blah, blah. So, so all that is put through, and my oncology team gets all that stuff on Wednesday morning, and they don't want me to come in because of all the blood tests that I've already done, but because of the infection, or this liver stuff that I have, they don't want to go ahead with my next chemo. So they scheduled an emergency CT. I had a CT that was scheduled for today, actually. That's interesting. It was scheduled for probably about this time right now. But instead of waiting for the week and a half, they scheduled it for that Wednesday, that very day. And the CT came back, and I was like, I wonder how long it's going to take them to read it or report on it. Got the report the very next day. It wasn't actually spread to the lungs, thank goodness. It was, or even my liver, actually, is sort of what the guy was saying. Sorry if I confused that earlier. And so it showed stable, like, so in terms of the cancer, the CT showed everything being stable, if not some shrinkage in the peritoneum, which is a good thing. So when all of everything else that's happening to me right now clears up, I'm going to continue on for Fury without the oxaliplatin because they're worried about neuropathy. Okay, done. So I'm like, okay, great. This is good news. I'm going to delay. So at that point on Wednesday or on Thursday, when we had the CT results, the oncologists were like, okay, well, you'll keep taking that antibiotic for the lungs, and we'll delay chemo for a week, and we'll take it from there. As soon as I was done that phone call, probably about 10-15 minutes after I was done that phone call, I get a phone call from ER for the emergency room where I went a couple days ago, and they say, we took your blood cultures and they've come back. You have a blood infection, so you have to come back to the hospital right away. And I said, well, I'm supposed to go to Princess Margaret tomorrow, which I didn't mention, but that was sort of the plan. I'm supposed to go back to Princess Margaret tomorrow. Can it wait until then? And they're like, no, it could be a much more serious thing by then. Potentially life-threatening, so you should come into the hospital as soon as possible. I'm like, all right. So that was unexpected. So I grabbed a number of things. I wasn't sure that I was going to be admitted or anything like that. So I grabbed a few things, just thinking that I was just going to be there for a while, because I think that even in that short talk with the ER doctor, there was just some talk about how I might be able to take some heavy duty antibiotics and be at home or whatever, or have IV antibiotics at home, whatever. So I go in to the ER, and they do all the stuff that they do, and they're like, no, we're admitting you, but there's no, and until we figure out, some of what's going on here. But we don't have any beds in the hospital right now, so you're in the ER until we couldn't find you a bed, which ended up being 36 hours, which ended up being a really challenging, my heart and like so much of my being, goes out to like those frontline folks in the ER, because I was just a person in a bed listening to all the stuff that was going on. To be the folks that treat the people that come into the ER is like, you can think about it from the standpoint of just as an idea, like me just telling you, like, imagine what it's like to be a frontline worker, works in the ER, dealing with all this emergency stuff, and they have TV shows and all that kind of stuff, which is dramatized. So, it's not going to be exactly like real life. But to spend the 36 hours that I did in that ER was really challenging on a lot of different levels. And so when I was finally moved to a bed, so after those 36 hours, I was moved to a bed in the hospital itself, so up in one of the wards. I ended up being roomed with somebody who was going through an opioid withdrawal episode. And it's so for a good 5 hours or so, because they did end up, so the nurses up where I was actually in on that floor, they were all amazing. Everybody actually that I dealt with, like 99% of the folks that I dealt with at the hospital the week that I was there, just amazing, 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 amazing. But for 5 hours when I was first moved into the new room, the person next to me was withdrawing and detoxing, and to a few people that I talked to about this, it was literally train spotting. It was literally what I remember, what it was like watching that scene of Ewan McGregor detoxing during train spotting. It's like intense, 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 intense. And it's hard to be really close to that. You know, I'm going through my own thing. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with me and all that stuff. So that's going on. I'll wrap this up because I've gone on like much longer than I thought that I would go on. But so where I'm at now is I've been out of the hospital for a few days. Turns out that the stent, I had a metal stent that was installed. I mentioned, I think, a little bit earlier, about a year ago, which allows the bile to be able to be processed internally. And when I was first diagnosed a year and a half ago, because of the obstruction that the pancreatic tumor had in my digestive system, the bile could not be processed internally, and I had to wear a bile drainage bag. So the bile had to drain externally. And it was, maybe I'll talk about it some other time. I know I've talked about it early on in the videos here. It wasn't fun. Getting it installed wasn't fun. Having it wasn't fun. They put it through the rib cage, so every time I would breathe and my rib cage would expand, it would, because there's a permanent hole where there's a tube that's running to this bag, where the bile is draining into. And so every time I would breathe, this is before it was installed on my side, I would breathe and my ribs would expand, and the tube would rub up against this open wound that I had. Good thing I mentioned that this time around, because I actually installed it right in my belly, and so the breathing part isn't a problem, apart from the fact that I have whatever's going on in my lungs. They're trying to clear that up with antibiotics. But I had to go through a couple of procedures. They tried to do an endoscopy on last Tuesday to see whether or not they could see what was wrong with the metal stent that was put in last year, and see if they could fix that up. They weren't able to. So the endoscopy, they weren't able to do anything with the stent. They weren't able to install another stent. So then I had to go through interventional radiology, which is not my favorite department, because I always just don't have I don't know, like those experiences are always really, really hard. And I came out, of course, this time around with this bag that I showed you. This is the bile drainage, and I will show you the other part where you can actually see the bile in it. And it's painful. It's painful to have it installed, because it's pretty much like a tube that they throw into you and throw it into your digestive system. And so getting it into place and all that stuff that they do in there before they're able to get it into place, is not necessarily a gentle thing. It just feels like you've just been, I've never been gut punched, but it feels like a gut punch from the inside. And it's felt like that for the last few days. Better and better every day, but still, it still hurts. And and my body getting used to figuring out what the heck's this tube doing here, and how do I work. Don't want you to put anything in here for me to digest because I don't know what to do with it. So I'm not that hungry. I have this bag that's stuck to me. I have this bile that I have to drain every so often, but it's helping. So it's all in the name of helping. So that's where I'm at. I'm tired though. It is yesterday. I went out for a little bit, went for a walk, and I guess my body, or even like this tube or this new contraption here, wasn't used to me walking around with it. So I was terribly sore by the time that I got home. Feeling a little bit better today, but still being a little bit of a baby, you know? I'm still being a little bit of a baby. So anyway, I just wanted to give you an update on what's going on. I was really hoping that I would have enough energy to think about doing a live stream in the next couple of days. I don't think so. Not quite yet. But we'll get there. And as of now, I'm taking some antibiotics for the next few days. I have chemo next week. Not this upcoming week, but the week after. For those of you who might have watched the live stream, Joe and I our anniversary was on the 20th. That's the day and we celebrated by me going into the hospital. And Joe's birthday is this upcoming Sunday, and we're hoping to do something special. And a very, very good friend of mine, I think, is going to be helping me make it extra special. I think that's something that I was trying to work out before jumping on camera. So I'm really hopeful and thankful for love, just love. I mean, it's incredible. Like, all this stuff that's happening, it's not, the best thing in the world. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I'm so thankful that that people care so much. They send me so much love and good wishes, and just things to smile about and to appreciate. And again, all the folks that have been supporting me on Patreon all this time, thank you so much. I saw, I think I was in the hospital, that I have a new person that's a good friend of mine who is who's signed up to Patreon. So thank you so much. It helps so much. And for those of you who may be interested in supporting me through this goal of getting 25,000 people to think like positive thoughts, and maybe do so through GoFundMe. There's a $5 minimum. If you could donate anything through that, there is a link below for that, and you will get your name on one of those hearts back there, because my goal is to have this whole wall, 25,000 people sending good vibes, not just to me, but I think to each other, to, just good vibes. So that's my plan. That's what's going on. Just wanted to give you an update. It's long. If you've made it so far, thank you. For all of you who've just been hanging in with me all this time, thank you. And you have no idea how much it all means to me. And I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad to be sharing this with you. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please put them below, because I want to be able to share things that maybe, like people may have questions about. Anything, if I can answer it, I'll do it. So please do that, or let me know what you think about these videos. Again, thank you so much for your continued support. Again, Patreon, all the Patreon people that I haven't mentioned through all this time, thank you so much for sticking with me. And I hope everyone's taking good care. Double chef's kiss. Love and care. And I send you love and care. Please send some my way if you happen to have it. But more importantly, Love and care for yourself and those around you. And we will talk to you again real soon.